to go more in details regarding identifying our school level or enhancing our school level, because if we don't know where we stand, then we will definitely be doing the studies. And then after that, if we have just decided to implement STEM in our schools, we will have to move from tier 1 to tier 2, tier 3 accordingly. Now, I have to point out here that these can definitely vary by school or by group. And for example, like a school can be in 1 tier or in 2 or 3, depending on their learners' readiness. And I also have to say, and I always reiterate, that no school is like the other, and no school should copy what the other school does, because it always depends on the environment of the school, on its capacity. And if we really want to work authentically on implementing STEM in our schools, we have to just look at what we are doing, not what other schools are doing, at least at the beginning, to know where we actually stand and to know how to progress afterwards. So what is fundamental through here is to consider the components, the 5 components below, and to make sure that they are aligned to operate as a robust system. And this is what I mentioned before when I said system concept or system. If we really want to have a system, then these elements should be already built in. If we don't have those elements built in, then we can start building them in. So if we consider, for example, the first row with professional development, in tier 1 or the average developing stage, we have rigorous PD, and I'm calling them here 1, 2, 3, and we will be talking about this more in this presentation and in the coming presentations. Rigorous PD, rigorous professional development. And I'm using the word rigorous because we can have professional development, and almost every school in the world has professional development. But the rigorous professional development is the professional development that is a robust system tailored to the stakeholders themselves, tailored mainly to the teachers. And definitely, before you tailor them to the teachers, you are checking your learners' status at the first. So here, when we say rigorous, means these are personalized professional development. And I have been doing this as a director myself, and I confidently say that it is very helpful when you have the professional development tailored, personalized to your teachers. And of course, it can be done in different ways, in different methodologies, so that it can meet the needs of the teachers, basically, and the leaders, because even leaders will need professional development. Tier 2, of course, rigorous PD2, and Tier 3, rigorous PD3. This will definitely evolve according to we are moving from a level to another, higher and higher. And then within the professional development domain, we are also catering to what is most important in the 21st century skills, which we have all heard about, the 4 C's. And I will be showing that in the coming slides. For example, in tier 1, we are doing the 4 C's. In tier 2, we are adding, let's say, 4 to 5 C's. And you will see in tier 3, we are adding to 6 C's. We can have 7 to 12. It doesn't matter, because we are always exploring and adding more skills. But the point here, when you say tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, is that we do not want to overload our staff with information that they cannot digest. And this is another, like I said, one of the major errors that school leaders fall into. So we will say, well, our teachers need these 10 items in their professional development. But if our team is not ready at that point to digest only, let's say, 6 of the 10 on the 10 items on this PD list, then it will be nonsensical to do the 10. So here it's very important to take into consideration the overload, the cognitive overload of our teachers. Most of the time we have new teachers on board, those beginners. You cannot just expect a teacher in her first year to assimilate all this knowledge that a teacher of 5 years of experience will do. So this is a very important point to consider. So, and I'll have to explain this again in a different way. If we are doing, let's say, if we choose to do the 4 C's, or if we choose to do this basic level of PD, as we first start to implement STEM, this is not a point of weakness in our school. Again, we have to say that, and this is one of the aspects of my O.R.B.I.T.S approach, we have to tailor to the needs and to the aspirations. So the first thing is to tailor to the needs, and the second is to tailor to the aspirations. And the third aspect of our professional development domain is the computational thinking. And again, we are here tailoring to what our staff can assimilate. So for example, we can start with computational thinking only for 20 to 25% of our staff. With tier 2, we can add this percentage to 30 to 40, and then with team 3, 40 to 50, etc., because we will be definitely moving from one tier to another. We can even start with only the ICT teachers, although computational thinking now, as a 21st century part of computer science, is a necessity to all teachers. It can be done on a basic level. So this is regarding professional development. For the second domain, for example, curricular activities, here we speak about the cognitive rigor. And again, I am categorizing them as level 1 for tier 1, level 2 for tier 2, level 3 for tier 3. And here we mean integration, not the combination of the disciplines. And I have explained this thoroughly in the previous presentation, in the second STEM presentation here on this channel. You can watch the presentation, and it shows how we are not simply combining, we are integrating the disciplines. And I will be explaining with more examples in the coming presentations. So cognition, by definition, is this mental action or process of acquiring the knowledge, understanding through thoughts, through experience, and through the senses. So in other words, it is an immersion. It is a full type of experience. So again, we are tailoring to the needs of our learners. So that's why we are talking here about level 1. What do we think our learners can assimilate? What do we think our learners can digest to start with? And then we move to tier 2 and tier 3. Extracurricular activities. Again, and here, extracurricular activities are those activities that don't fall within the scope of academics. So they are mainly the sports, the music, the dancing activities, community service, charity work, etc. But these can be related to STEM, because while you are preparing your extracurricular activities, you are already incorporating science, mathematics, engineering, and technology. So there can be a way of blending, of infusing these into these activities. But here mainly when we are doing the extracurricular activities, we are also here increasing the creativity, innovation through this engagement of learners. And that's why we say, while we are focusing on the extracurricular activities, we are here working on what I'm calling it cognitive, social, emotional rigor, again, level 1, level 2, and level 3. And when we talk about the social, emotional, here we mainly, we mean the empathy, while doing this group work, while doing this teamwork, having a positive attitude, agility, agency, etc. All this is part of the learning process. And we all know that once these are attended to, our students will feel more confident in handling and in the engagement within those STEM field subjects, which may be considered challenging and which are expected to be challenging anyway. When we are attending to these first 3, the professional development, curricular activities, and extracurricular activities, we are already covering 3 of the main domains. Now, more on these in these slides, because I found that these slides will be helpful. If we want to explain what rigor is defined by Stabnik in 2015. Rigor is the result of work that challenges students' thinking in new and interesting ways. It occurs when they are encouraged toward a sophisticated understanding of fundamental ideas and are driven by curiosity to discover what they don't know. And here it's very important to differentiate between difficulty and complexity. So we don't want to give assignments or tasks that are difficult. We want them to be complex, and complex means trying to find different ways, alternative ways to reach a certain outcome, while difficult might be simply hard to solve, which is something we definitely do not want. So one of the interesting models is the Rainbow of 21st Century Skills. It was initiated in 2015. I find it interesting because it's comprehensive, although now it definitely will need more adjustment, but I would like to point attention to it as a rainbow here. If we consider the green part, core subjects, 3 R's. Now, of course, we all know the 3 R's started back in 19th century, fusing the 3 R's. We mean the English, reading, and arithmetic, but because they are the basics, we know that they are the basics for all other subjects. You need to read, you need to write, you need to do arithmetic. So they are the basics for other subjects. But we now know that these cannot exist anymore in the 21st century without being infused with the 4 C's, and we will see how. So the 4 C's, we know that the 4 C's include the critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. And here it's like we are bringing those learning and innovation skills. So when you fuse these two together along with the 21st century themes, and for example, one of the 21st century theme now is climate. For example, climate change, environment, biodiversity, etc. Also diversity, inclusion. All these are 21st century themes which we have to incorporate in our projects. So the 3 R's serve as an umbrella for the other subjects. We know that, and to all the core content. The 4 C's are this bridge that can help those learning skills be more solidified in our learning process. But here in this model, you can see from one side is the life and career skills, which is very important. And on the other side, information, media, and technology skills, because we know now that without technology, even the 3 R's are not helpful now anymore without technology and digitalization. And of course, we will see the standards and assessment, curriculum and instruction, professional development, learning environments, but these can be modified as per need. So the 4 C's are mainly the critical thinking, and critical thinking, it means the learners being able to analyze, to interpret and evaluate, and mainly to solve problems. In communication, communication is not just the exchange of ideas through different media. We mean by communication is the ability to convey the idea the way you want to the target audience. In other words, you are able to deliver the message effectively. Collaboration definitely involves working together to reach a certain goal. And this is very important now. We can have this done in the classes through projects in the real world throughout our work environments. And creativity, it's when you are creating an authentic product. And here I want to again pinpoint a certain difference between creativity and innovation. Creativity is when you are coming out with this authentic product. Innovation is mainly trying to solve a problem in a creative way, trying to find an alternative product to what is usually known by the people around you within a certain industry. So more about the 4 C's here, and I'm calling it XC's because it depends whether it's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. I think as we move along more deeply into our 21st century, every day we are experiencing and exploring actually a new type of skill. So if we consider first the tier 1, the 4 C's is obligatory actually for all our learners. If you are still setting STEM in your school, we have to really work on these 4 C's, which is critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. With tier 2 here, we are adding. And when I mean adding, for example, in this case, we are adding character here, like character development, character education, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't mean that we can't do character with tier 1, but in tier 2, when we include it in our 5 C's, it means it should be very systematically planned so that it can effectively lead to a certain result that we, or outcome that we want, that we aspire. As for tier 3 here we are adding more to that. We are adding to the 4 C's, the character, we are adding the climate and culture. And by this, we mean this this coherent school environment that is all unified within a certain mission. Now, again, this doesn't mean that we can do this in tier 2 and tier 1, but when we mean that we are incorporating this in tier 3, means, again, it is very strategically built in the system. It will be found in all disciplines. The professional development will be targeting this, the climate, culture, etc. Now, tier 4 actually is extended O.R.B.I.T.S approach, extended according to my approach, which is the O.R.B.I.T.S for conscious learning and being. So here we have all those C's and we are adding conscious learning and being. I personally would prefer to extend to this level, because in my approach, I really target, and I think we can, as a collective, work on conscious learning and being. Coming to the computational thinking, because again, I am trying to elaborate on the previous first 3 domains. So if we ask ourselves, what is computational thinking? If we want to compare computational thinking to mathematical thinking, now we will definitely can clearly see what our schools has been conducting in the past. Our schools have been doing mathematical thinking, counting, arithmetic, algebra, geometry, calculus, etc. And all these include problem solving, modeling, statistics, probability, etc. But this is not enough. Again, like we said, the 3 R's are not enough anymore in this 21st century. They are not ample if we want to really progress in this digital transformation. So our learners and consequently our teachers should be doing of the computational thinking. Definitely these will vary. Again, they can vary according to tiers, and they can vary also according to the vision mission of the school. Some schools do not want to go into those complicated, sophisticated levels. This is fine, but our schools should be moving into the STEM fields to create more STEM preparation for our learners. This is I find this very important. Otherwise, our learners will fall behind the progress of what other learners are doing in other schools in other countries. At least if students start coding at an early age in a very simple manner, like I said, it does not have to be complicated, but at least students should know about it. So in here, the school decides to what extent does it want to progress in its computational thinking path. And I can here share an example as well of the computational thinking while decomposing pattern recognition, abstraction, algorithms to understand algorithms. We already know that children are already using social media, using their mobile phones. They are already using gaming. So it's good at least to know how the algorithms work, so that, and as they grow older and when they face a situation when they have to make a decision about a post on the internet, in the social media, they should know how the algorithms are working. And one of the very good books that I'd like to share here is the Rev Up Robotics. This is about real-world computational thinking for K-8 classroom. This book actually is highly recommended because it helps in real-life learning, and it gives teachers those short paths and some ideas to incorporate in their lesson plans. I will also be sharing here 21st century learning model based on my approach. And I have been providing in the past few months the 21st century education series through my newsletter. I send it every month. I encourage you to sign into the newsletter. It is free of charge, and this is very helpful. The model is as this: it has 4 equal elements of cognitive rigor, technology, and I mean digitalization here, social emotional rigor, and global citizenship. And you will see that even global citizenship is based or tailored to O.R.B.I.T.S approach. So it's not just the global citizenship that we know about, it is more tailored to conscious learning and being. And I find this very important as we move on to another level, higher level in our consciousness, which our learners can tap into. So if you are interested in this, because it does include the cognitive rigor as well, and technology, and the cognitive rigor, technology, social emotional rigor, and global citizenship involved in this series, they also support STEM education. So I highly encourage you to subscribe to the newsletter and receive it for free. So, and again, as mentioned before, in the assessment evaluation in STEM or STEAM education, there are certain indicators, there are certain rubrics, data analysis that we can do to assess STEM in our schools and to evaluate the system. There are certain slides over there in those presentations that are very helpful, which can be used as rubrics as well. So coming back to the last two domains, which involve challenges and partnerships. Now, regarding challenges, you cannot have a system, any type of system, without having certain challenges. And here, whether it's tier 1 or tier 2 or 3, it's mainly resistance or certain obstacles. Now, in tier 1, it's, of course, obviously, it's the obstacles of setting the necessary indispensable foundations. In tier 2, resistance or obstacles of building on the necessary and indispensable foundations. And tier 3, the resistance or obstacles of extending on the necessary and indispensable foundations. And needless to say, in the 3 tiers here, challenges are definitely related to the 6 criteria that we mentioned before, the physical, the digital capacity, all those types of capacity of a school. And here I cannot actually name these because it depends on the school. So here, once you do your own study of your STEM system by tier or by category, you can identify these challenges. But the main important point here is that once you identify the challenge, to work on it. Because especially when you have a system, it's not a project, it's not a program, it is a system. The challenges will obviously be there. And if the challenges are not solved in a timely manner, then they will accumulate and it will be hard to continue within the certain system. There will be huge gaps emerging. As for the partnerships, again, here, partnerships locally and globally available to match the cognitive, social, emotional rigor level 1. So if you're doing tier 1, then these partnerships should match this level. And if you're doing tier 2, the partnerships should match tier 2 and tier 3 as well. And of course, with tier 3 here, this is the highest level of STEM in your school. Definitely you will be experiencing more complex of the outside economy, and here we mean the application economy. Here we are talking about we can talk about different industries. When you have your learners, they will be working on projects with like industries like Mercedes, for example, like Toyota, whatever. You can also, they will be visiting those factories, working on certain or also conducting projects with application service providers, etc. You will be handling more sophisticated digital tools as well, and more programming, more data mining, etc. So more to come in this STEM or STEAM series. Stay tuned for more presentations. If you find this of value to you or to anyone you know, then please like the video and share it with educators you know, and we will be presenting more and more. Thank you for being here, and we will meet in another presentation.